All right, so describe the three main tasks of a neuron. There we go. You all finished already? Jeez. All right, go ahead. All right, so three main tasks. What do we got? What do we have? Give me one of them. Andrew, give me one of them.
Sensory input.
Okay, all right. So it's receiving information from another neuron. Good job. And we'll talk. Well, we already talked about that yesterday with the receiver part, the dendrites. Okay, how they receive the information from another neuron. All right. What is another task of a neuron? Kaylin?
Carrying information down this leg.
Yeah, good job. So the axon, right? So carrying the information from the soma down the axon through the axon terminals to another dendrite of another neuron. Good. And then the last one here, last task. Allison? Yeah, good job. So through synapses, which we'll talk more about on Monday, and how neurons connect. All right, good, good. All right, so I'm going to come around and check your bell ringers. So have those out. Should only have 3 of them. And I'll get you working on the vocab. It's cold. Love it. Ready to go tonight?
Are you checking the homework now too?
Oh, yeah. Homework, too. Have that out. Thank you, Kayla. Kind of like awesome. Yeah, homework. Good. All right. All right. Then your homework. Dinner on. Wait, Supergirl or something?
No.
A what? Wonder Pets. Oh, okay. No, I don't think I've ever heard of Wonder Pets.
Really?
I think he's a bit too old for that.
No.
Just watch the intro. Just watch the intro.
I don't know the one. All right, you're good. Homework, good. Christian, you ready to roll? What do you? Good. You'll probably get a lot of handoffs today. That's gonna be a little sloppy one then. All right, good. Can't believe you dropped your baby already.
Okay. I was supposed to get news tomorrow.
Can you fit in the desk with it?
Oh, well.
I'm stuck. Help me. I can't get out. All right, here we go. So let's go over the assignment from yesterday. I know you guys know it, but just to review it real quick. Parts and functions of the neuron. Good work on that. I'll put those 2 grades in right away. Second marking period. Like to see it. So if you may have a mistake, just fix it, okay? And just alter it. So number 1, what do we have here? What do we have for number 1, Caitlin? Axon terminals, good job. So they reach out to other dendrites of another neuron, and they send the information out to the dendrites of another neuron. Good, so this is really the end of the line, right? Okay, 2. What do we have for 2, Allison? Myelin sheath, good job. And what is the main purpose function of the myelin sheath? Yeah, good job. So protecting the axon acts like that protected layer. Okay, I think the example I gave yesterday was the plastic coating of an electrical cord. That's a good example. And how that's protecting the axon. And 3 is what, Brittany? The axon, good. And what is that? What's its main purpose, its main function? Yeah, the large single fiber. Okay, one-way street sends the information from the soma, the nucleus, to the axon terminals. Good. 4. Raven?
I got this wrong, so I don't know this.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think it is?
So the way I looked at the graph, I thought 2 was the nodes.
The nodes are Ranvier.
Yeah, I thought 3 was the myelin sheath, and so I said 4 was the axon.
Oh.
I thought it was the whole thing.
Oh.
So
Well, that's why with 3 it was like kind of branched out the whole. All right, I can see why you're confused.
because I thought 5 would be the soma and 4 was like the whole thing. So I'm guessing 4 is the soma. And
Yeah, 4 is the soma. Good job, the cell body, and that's protecting 5, which is what? The nucleus. Good job. And finally, number 6. Connor, what do you have for 6? The dendrites. Good job. And what are they? Yeah, good job. So they connect synapses to other axon terminals of another neuron, so that information can be received. Good job. All right, I think we're good with the neuron. So again, I'm thinking Monday quiz on the neuron and the nervous system. So it's going to be a Google form. Shouldn't be too hard to complete. All right, so let's get moving here. Let's get moving. So the firing of a neuron. All right, let's just start with, let's go to, there we go. All right, so action potential, we kind of mentioned this yesterday, and now action potential is that movement, okay, of this electrical impulse down the neuron, okay? So through the axon, so starting really with receiving the dendrites, okay, they receive the information from another neuron. It's being processed in the nucleus. We all know the soma protects the nucleus. That information is being traveled down the axon to the axon terminals, and this is action potential. Okay, so this is the process, the movement of this electrical charge from the neuron. Okay, resting potential is really just the neuron waiting to receive a message. okay, waiting to receive an electrical charge from another neuron. Okay, and I kind of relate this to how a toilet is, resting potential. The toilet's just sitting there, waiting to be operated, right? Okay, maybe you just did your duty there. Get it, duty, all right? And you're just waiting to trigger the toilet. Action potential is the movement of water, obviously down the hole, okay? So resting potential, the neuron's just waiting to be fired. Okay, it's just kind of sitting there dormant. Okay, it's just waiting to be fired. Action potential is the initial movement. Okay, sorry, the movement of this information down the neuron. Pretty self-explanatory. All right, absolute threshold is that first trigger. Okay, that trigger that fires the neuron. Okay, so this information being received through the dendrites to the nucleus. The nucleus is going to decide whether or not this message should be fired or not. Okay, once it's fired, there's no going back though, right? Okay, we'll talk about that here soon. But once it's fired, it's going to continue this message, this action potential, okay, sending this information down the neuron to another neuron. All right, but the absolute threshold is this first trigger, okay, this first initial movement, and that's causing the neuron to be fired. So what would this be relating to a toilet, do you think? Raven, how are you going to get a toilet moving? You flush it, right? You hit the trigger. Good job. I have one at home. You just hit the button on top, which is nice. Something a little new. Yeah. So the absolute threshold is this first trigger, this first movement, okay, of the action potential. And again, relating it to a toilet, it's like you pushing down on the flusher. Pretty self-explanatory. Refractory period. Okay, refractory period is how we're charging the neuron back up. So once it's fired, you need to wait a little bit. You just can't fire it over and over and over again. It needs to charge back up. And the only way this neuron can be fired is if it has an ability to reboot itself, to recharge. And with the refractory period for a toilet, we know we just can't flush it over and over and over again. We need to wait till the water builds back up in the bowl. Okay, it needs water obviously to send, okay, whatever you have going down the toilet, right? So the refractory period is this buildup, this charging of the neuron. Okay, it needs to build this charge before it can be fired once again. Has ever used one of those cameras before? I know it's getting a little outdated now. Yes, you got to rewind the film back up before you take a picture. All right, I don't know. Sooner or later, I might have to take that one down. Everybody's had an iPhone, I'm sure. Yeah, I like that they're live where they can just take multiple pictures all at once. They don't have to charge it back up. But with the toilet, again, once you flush it, you need to wait for the water to build back up before you can flush the toilet again. You two-time flushers in here. Oh, geez, Connor. Geez. Oh, my. How about that game you guys play? Oh, my gosh. Your group game back there. You and Heffler and Peyton. You guys are sick. No, I'd win. All right, so here you go. All or nothing. The all or nothing principle is once the neuron is fired, there's no going back, right? You can't reverse the signal being sent down the neuron. Okay, the only way it can be stopped really is if the accepting neuron, okay, the nucleus decides not to send the information. Okay, that electrical charge. The all or nothing principle is like this information being sent. Once it's past absolute threshold, there's no going back. That message is going to be sent without it being stopped. We all know the axon is a one-way street, right? Okay, there's no building this message back up to the nucleus. Nope, once it's sent, once it's triggered, once it's absolute thresholds crossed and action potential is rolling down the axon, there's no going back. It's like saying something that you regret, right? Once you say it, once it comes out of your mouth, you can't really pull those words back out. All right? Sure, we've all been there before. Or the firing of a gun. Shoot a gun, can't pull that bullet back in. Freeze time, bring it back, right? Like with the watch or something, I don't know. If you have the time stone, Dr. Strange can do it. All right, depolarization is that initial movement. So this is right when absolute threshold is triggered. And once absolute threshold is triggered, this is going to start this movement, okay, into action potential. All right, so depolarization is really just describing that movement. Okay, as that is triggered, depolarization occurs, where this information is being sent from the nucleus to the axon, triggering action potential. And a good example of this, right when you hit the flusher on the toilet, well, the water has to come from the bowl, okay, or yeah, from the tank to the bowl. All right, it's that movement from the tank to the bowl, that's depolarization. Once action potential is occurring with the water going down the bowl, there's no stopping. The all or nothing principle, you can't reverse that action. So again, depolarization, once that information is being received in the nucleus, okay, as absolute thresholds being triggered, that information is being sent. Depolarization is that first initial movement into action potential. As you can see stated here. Those pictures do a good job expressing. All right, I was going to save this till Monday, but since we're moving pretty good, I might as well just talk about how neurons connect. You guys good with this? Yeah, Christian, you good? All right. So how cells connect, they actually don't come together. The dendrites of a neuron and the axon terminals of another neuron, they actually do not connect. There's a synapse, okay, a cleft that occurs. So this synapse is actually kind of hovering between the dendrite of a neuron and the axon terminal of another. So as you perform a task over and over and over again, you form these synapses, you form these connections of neurons to other neurons, where you can perform a task really without thinking about it. It's almost like second nature. It's like throwing a football or riding a bike. At first, you're a little wobbly. You can't really do it at first. But after some time with practice, eventually, you can just do it without even thinking. And that's how these neurons connect. After we perform a task over and over again, sooner or later, these neural connections become stronger and stronger. We have more neural connections, allowing us to perform these tasks really with ease. Like I said, second nature. So a synapse is really just the connection, the gap between the dendrite and the axon terminal. All right, so with this information being sent, so as action potential is cruising down the axon to the axon terminals, it is sending this information, okay, these neurotransmitters, through the synapse. And if, let's say, the dendrite of another neuron accepts it, then obviously you're going to have action potential moving from the dendrite into the soma of the next neuron. But these synaptic vesicles, these are where these neurotransmitters are being sent. This is like the electrical charge that is really moving down the action potential into the dendrite. But once it's released, well, it's give or take, right? It depending if this information is going to be accepted by the other neurons, dendrites. If not, well, we'll talk about it. It's called reuptake, and it's just sent back to the other axon being sent, so the axon terminals. And then maybe after another action potential is being released, then this neurotransmitter could be accepted by the other axon terminal. But this is how this information is being sent. Again, these synaptic vesicles that kind of float out into the cleft, and if it's accepted, these neurotransmitters to the postsynaptic memory of the receiving dendrite of the neuron, then this information can pass through. But if it's not received, well, it could just diffuse, right? Or there could be reuptake, where this information from the synaptic vesicle could be soaked up again by the axon terminal. That's already kind of what I talked about already with action potential. As it's reaching the axon terminals, this neurotransmitter is going to the synaptic cleft, where it's released and hopefully received by the other receiving neuron, the dendrites of that neuron. And it's interesting how it works. These neurotransmitters need to have the exact fit. It's almost like a lock and key. Right? If it doesn't exactly fit, well, the receiving neuron is not going to receive this action potential. It won't accept this message being sent from the sending neuron. Here's a good picture of it too, of how these synaptic vesicles release the message, hopefully being received from the dendrite. As this is moving down this action potential to the synaptic membrane, how this is being released, these neurotransmitters hopefully being accepted by the dendrite of another neuron. And if not, there's a couple things that could happen. Like I said, you could have diffusion where this synaptic membrane is just diffused, where it just doesn't receive the information and it's gone. Or you could have reuptake. So reuptake is when this neurotransmitter is being sent this message from the synaptic vesicle, and it's just soaked back up into the sending neuron. So the axon terminal of the sending neuron. Hopefully, through action potential of another message being sent from another neuron or from that neuron, it will send to the receiving neuron. But it only can happen if action potential is released again. If not, well, it's lost forever. Okay, that message will not be received. And a good example is reflexes, right? So if we're going to do an action, we're about to have a reflex from it, a reaction to, let's say, a stimulus, and we just stop midway. It's like, you know what, let's just keep moving, right? That's kind of a good example how maybe we can understand what we're doing and perform a different task before we actually partake in that activity. So you guys good with that? So how neurons connect, how they transmit information, okay, with the synapse, right? They actually do not connect. They send it through neurotransmitters, synaptic vesicles, hopefully being recepted by the receiving neuron. If not, well, diffusion could occur where the synaptic membrane of the neurotransmitter just dissolves and it's gone forever. Or reuptake could occur where this information could be soaked back up into the sending neuron. And it could be sent again through another action potential of that sending neuron. If not, it's gone, right? That message will not be delivered. All right, that's what I got for today. So here's your assignment, just relating, which we already